the first Gen Z Republican to say it out loud.
I think we started to see around the Obama years was when we started to see immigrants come in and they said, you don't need to change anything. You're good the way you are. You don't have to assimilate. You don't have to do this or that. But what it does is it loses our very identity as what we are as America. If the people coming in don't see themselves as American, we're essentially just a globalist entity, not even a country, not with a specific identity, a culture or anything, a language, religion. We're just a globalist entity. And that's not what I want to be. And I never want it to become that.
Yeah, it's
and
like
that's why I want to stop immigration, both illegal and legal. It's irresponsible.
You look at the housing market, and the average first-time home buyer in America is 40 years old now. 5 years ago, it was 33. My parents bought their first house for $90,000 in the late 90s, and now it's probably worth over $400,000. So we're facing a lot of issues, and I think some things that we need to do is we need to ban H-1B visas, make sure corporations are hiring a certain number of Americans and make sure they act in the interest of the American people, not just for themselves. I think that we need to stop subsidizing illegal immigrants for housing and instead maybe look into subsidizing Americans for first-time home buyers for housing and not allow corporations and the Chinese Communist Party to buy entire neighborhoods of single-family homes.
That was Nikki Haley's son, Nayland Haley, proving loyalty isn't inherited, it's chosen. Now let's watch the claim that America needs more foreign workers because Americans aren't skilled enough be debunked.
I think that next year, I predict 2 million of immigrants, or maybe a little bit more, will self-deport using Trump's CBP One or CBP Home system, where they're offered a stipend. A lot of people are losing hope. They don't think anything good is going to happen to them if they stay here, and they're leaving on their own. They're self-deporting.
If America had a skills shortage, people wouldn't be fleeing the system. The system would be begging them to stay. They told Americans it was temporary.
The H-1B program, created in 1990, allows U.S. businesses to temporarily hire foreign workers in certain specialized fields.
Instead, corporations turned it into a permanent pipeline.
India dominates H-1B approvals, with 72% of visas going to Indian-born workers in 2023.
American companies are laying off their American technology workers, seemingly replacing them with H-1B workers. One company was approved for 5,000 H-1B workers while laying off 16,000 U.S. employees within that same year.
Amazon, Google, Microsoft, all of these companies hired H-1Bs in bulk. Foreign talent came gushing into the US, and it almost became the new pathway for STEM people essentially to start working and living in the US. The immigrants who came, consulting firms like PCS and Infosys started using the H-1B. In fact, I wouldn't just say using the H-1B, they started misusing the H-1B. So outsourcing, staffing loopholes, basically exploitation of the visa system, even via third-party placement companies, started to happen a lot.
In a given pool of 100 H-1Bs, there might be 1 or 2 who are truly outstanding. There'll be a third who are below average, a third that are average, and maybe a third that are slightly above average. But basically, this is just regular working stiffs with regular degrees from regular universities. For the tech companies, it's simply a matter of business. If you give any company the opportunity to hire a worker for $10 as opposed to $20, what possible motivation is there for them to hire the more expensive worker? Companies are not people. They're not moral. They don't have ethics.
That's it. Just corporations choosing cheap, trapped, and replaceable over American. Most companies have offices in India. They just don't advertise it. So post-COVID, if they're hiring Indians, why not let them work remote from India? President Trump is putting America first again, turning H-1B back into what it was meant to be, a visa for rare talent, not a pipeline to replace American workers.
Major change. The president signing a proclamation that now requires this $100,000 annual fee for this H-1B visa for highly skilled foreign workers. Now, this could be a huge blow to big tech firms that rely heavily on highly skilled foreign workers to fill key roles. And the Trump administration is arguing that this is going to crack down on a system that companies use to avoid hiring American citizens and to undercut wages.
The United States could soon ban the travelers from dozens of countries, including India. Yes, a full travel ban. That's the phase that's shaken the social media after U.S. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem urged President Donald Trump to block entry of the nations she claims and sending killers, leeches, and entitled junkies. She said that she had met President Trump and recommended a complete travel ban on every damn country that's been flooding our nation. President Trump reposted a statement. No comments, no clarification, just click that signaled that he's listening.
Third world countries. We already have this travel ban for 19 countries. They're talking about today and yesterday about expanding that to potentially 30 countries.
Trump tightens H-1B. Americans finally get a chance. And Washington responds by trying to double the visa, thanks to a Democrat from Illinois.
Hire Act, which is Congressman Krishnamurthy from Illinois, wanting to introduce the High Skilled Immigration Reform for Employment Act, which includes doubling the number of H-1Bs available.
A proposal to raise the annual H-1B cap from 65,000 to 130,000, plus 20,000 advanced degree slots. Supporters say America's tech, AI, defense, and research sectors are desperate for talent, and doubling H-1Bs would fill critical shortages. Industry groups like ITSERV Alliance argue the cap is outdated and hurts U.S. innovation, but political pushback is fierce. Critics claim the program is vulnerable to fraud, especially after new allegations tied to Indian consulates. Others say more visas could depress wages or disadvantage American workers. Passing the bill requires bipartisan support, and immigration remains one of the most divided issues in Congress.
Ensuring that we tear the so-called quote-unquote paper ceiling and end hiring discrimination has long been a priority of mine.
Translation: make it easier for corporations to hire foreign workers and harder for Americans to compete. While Washington argues about doubling visas and importing more workers, the rest of America is dealing with the consequences of the ones who are already here.
About 40 to 50% of Dearborn's population is foreign-born, primarily from Arab countries like Iraq, Yemen, and Lebanon. Estimates suggest that 35 to 50% are illegal. About 40 to 50% of the population in Dearborn are here illegally on visa overstays. About 45 to 50% of the illegal migrants came into the country illegally without a visa. About 5% of the illegal migrants used fake applications.
Visa fraud isn't rare. In places like Minnesota, it's normal.
Christian and conservative activists organized a march in Dearborn protesting what they described as a Sharia law taking over because of unchecked migration.
We are going to be assembling in eastern Dearborn, Michigan. We're not going down there to cause trouble. We are simply doing what our First Amendment right gives us, which is the ability to assemble. We, the people here in the state of Michigan, do not need to be scared or be afraid to get together.
Muslim residents showed up to counter, and the clash escalated into physical violence. The confrontation turned ugly when marchers reportedly waved American flags and chanted slogans like, "We are Christians and you can't take over our country," prompting a surge of locals to push back aggressively. Muslims attacked march leaders with one organizer, Jake Lang, shoved, hit in the face, and pepper sprayed by multiple residents. Activists tried to burn a Quran as a symbolic protest, but were attacked, leading to fistfights and shouts of "go home" from the opposing group. Dearborn police were accused of protecting the Muslims and not arresting them when they attacked the Christian group.
Dearborn didn't happen overnight. It happened because leaders chose votes over vigilance. And now the damage is done and spreading. Michigan is the preview, Minnesota is the warning.
Caught on to the fact that Tim Walz, the governor of Minnesota, who, by the way, was for some reason Kamala Harris's choice to be the VP, is complicit in ignoring a massive welfare fraud scheme perpetrated in his state by largely Somalian immigrants. The New York Times is no longer ignoring this story. They covered it in a devastating report that alleges, quote, fraud swamped Minnesota's social services system on Tim Walz's watch. It's a bombshell story. Let's take one example of the fraud. A nonprofit called Feeding Our Future took government money during COVID that was supposed to go toward buying meals for hungry children. Instead, it went toward luxury cars, even real estate projects abroad. That's right, the fraudster sent American taxpayer dollars out of this country. Of the 86 people charged with the fraud, all but 8 of them were Somalians. And here's where it gets worse. According to whistleblowers, state agents were tacitly approving the fraud because the Somalians have become a powerful constituency in the state of Minnesota.
And the media? They did what they always do, cover up Democrat failures by blaming Donald Trump.
Here's what's interesting, because if you're upset about fraud, in 2018, a judge ruled that you know who had to pay $25 million due to his fraudulent university. In February 2024, a New York judge found him, his sons, and his organization liable for fraud. Then 3 months later, he was found guilty on 34 counts of fraud.
Really, Whoopi? We can't talk about something other than something wrong a Democrat did, rather, for more than 2 seconds before you bring up Donald Trump?
And then President Trump stepped in and told the truth no one else would say.
No, I think that Walz is a grossly incompetent man. There's something wrong with him, okay? There's something wrong with him. And when you look at what he's done with Somalia, which is barely a country, you know, they have no anything. They just run around killing each other. There's no structure. And when I see somebody like Ilhan Omar, who I don't know at all, but I always watch her for years. I've watched her complain about our Constitution, how she's being treated badly. Our Constitution, the United States of America, is a bad place. Hates everybody, hates Jewish people, hates everybody. And I think she's an incompetent person. She's a real terrible person. But when I watch what is happening in Minnesota, the land of 1,000 lakes, or however many lakes they have, they got a lot of lakes, but this beautiful place, and I see these people ripping it off, and now I'm understanding, and you're going to look at that, Scott, I hear they ripped off Somalians, ripped off that state for billions of dollars, billions, every year, billions of dollars, and they contribute nothing. The welfare is like 88%. They contribute nothing. I don't want them in our country, I'll be honest with you, okay? Somebody would say, oh, and we're going to go the wrong way if we keep taking in garbage into our country. Ilhan Omar is garbage. She's garbage. Her friends are garbage. These aren't people that work. These aren't people that say, let's go, come on, let's make this place great. These are people that do nothing but complain. They complain. And from where they came from, they got nothing. You know, they came from paradise, and they said, this isn't paradise. But when they come from hell, and they complain and do nothing but bitch, we don't want them in our country. Let them go back to where they came from and fix it.
Trump is restoring order to immigration because a nation that can't choose its own future won't have one. Subscribe to TFN for more stories like this.